Hey guys, today on Wonder Mom's Workshop we are going to be working on reupholstering. Now as you see, I've got a couple of chairs in my garage here that are projects just waiting to happen. Now if you've never done upholstery before, it's actually not terribly tricky. It can be super duper frustrating, but the process itself is relatively simple. It's a matter of demolishing the chair. So we're going to take off the upholstery from the chair, and then it's just a matter of using the fabric that we took off the chair as a template to cut out new fabric and put it back onto the chair. So I've done a few pieces in my time, and upholstery projects can range from something super duper small to like as in like a pad on a dining room chair, or something as huge as a couch or a recliner. The more moving parts, the more difficult it's going to be. Today I'm going to take you through my work on this little chair here. I actually got it for free. It's a really cool piece, but there's just on the corners here, the upholstery is scuffed up and the fluff is coming out, so it just needs a little facelift, and this is going to be a sweet little chair in the corner of my bedroom. So I'll show you the tools that I'm going to be using. For demolition, I kind of go back and forth between a variety of tools. My first one is this is my mini crowbar. It's actually intended for upholstery and small projects like that. It is a crowbar, it's just tiny, and it's small enough that it can get under staples. Upholstery fabric is stapled onto the lumber, the hard part of the chair. So this helps get into little crevices where staples may be hiding, and it works pretty well to pry those out. Now, if you don't have a mini crowbar, don't worry, you don't need to go out and get it. A flathead screwdriver works really well, and sometimes works even better. It just can get narrower and sometimes dig in the wood to pry out the stapler a little bit more. Now there are some staples that are a little closer to the surface and easier to get to. I always have a pair of needle nose pliers on hand that I can grip the staple and just pry it right out, and I'll show you how I work with that. But those are the three main tools that I use as far as demolition is concerned. Now when it comes to putting the chair back together, first of all, you're gonna need fabric, of course. When you're working with a chair about this size, especially like this one, you're gonna need about 5 to 6 yards of fabric. If you're working with a fabric that has a specific pattern that you'll need to honor grain lines, then you'll want to do 6. But for the most part, 5 yards will cover that. Now the chair that I'm working on today, because it doesn't go all the way to the floor, and because of just there's a smaller area to cover, I'm gonna shoot for about 3 to 4 yards of fabric. Again, 4 yards if I'm looking for a specific grain line that I need to match, and 3 if I'm working with something solid that can be worked around a little bit more. Some chairs you'll need a sewing machine for. There may be some seams that need to be sewn. Usually both of these chairs are going to need a sewing machine. Some chairs, especially if it's just a pad on a dining room chair or something small like that, will not need a sewing machine. You just need scissors, fabric scissors, to cut out the fabric. And then to put everything back together, you're going to need some staples. Okay, so I'll show you the couple of staple guns that I work with. Now you can have just like a craft stapler, heavy duty, more heavy duty than just crafting. But this stapler works really pretty well for a small project. And of course you're gonna need to get staples that match. I usually like to go between 3/8 of an inch to 3/4 of an inch length on the post. You don't want to use staples that are too long, because not all the wood on a chair is thick enough to not have the staple go straight through it. So I try to take smaller posts, but long enough that it's really going to stick in there and hold the staple. So I got this hand stapler with these staples that go with it. Now the first couple times I did a project, I was working with just this, and my hand got really, really sore. So for my bigger projects, I use my air compressor and my staple gun, and staples that match that. You gotta make sure that your staples complement and actually go with your staple gun. My air compressor and staple gun just make the process go a little bit faster. So that comes in handy. So without further ado, let's get started on this chair. All right, so the first thing that we're gonna do is flip our chair upside down. Okay. So on the bottom of every piece of furniture, there is this usually black covering that just hides everything that's going on inside. So that is the first thing that we need to take off. It's going to tell us a lot more about what else needs to be done on this particular project. So I'm gonna start, and I'm gonna use each of my tools as we go through, but there's staples that line all around here. So I'm gonna start, and there is, this kind of makes it easier. What am I saying? There is a cardboard strip that I can see that's just under this black. So if I can get under the cardboard, that's going to help me get some leverage, and I'll take the staple out. I usually like to collect the staples in a little glass bowl so that they're just not on the floor poking people. Okay, now this does take some effort to get under the staple and pull it out. Sometimes they get stuck, and that's where my pliers are gonna come in handy and just pull it right out. Okay, once I have my pliers in my hand, I kind of want to see how much more I can do. So I'll try to grip, try to find those that are sticking out. And when there's a cardboard strip here, it's a lot easier to grab just with the pliers. Okay, so I'll go along and continue grabbing whatever staples I can. This is the part that can be frustrating. It just takes a lot of time, and not all staples are going to come out with the same tool. So anything I can't get with my pliers, I'll move on. I'll try my crowbar this time. So we're gonna pry right under here and just pull it right out. Again, it's stuck in there, so I'm gonna use my pliers to pull it out. Okay, so you get the gist. And let's see, I got 5 staples. So you can imagine how much time this is going to take me. But that's essentially how we're going to peel back that first layer. All right, the black thing is off. Now, you might be wondering why I didn't just cut it out. The thing is, to get all the upholstery off, I still have to take the staples out, so I just take it out as I go. Also, I try to save and recycle all of the parts of the chair that I can. Usually if someone wants a chair reupholstered, it's because they love the feel of it. And the foam is one of the most expensive parts on a piece of furniture. So to replace the foam really hikes cost up. And if you are in love with a chair and it's super comfy, why would you want to change the foam and make it feel different? So I try to recycle as much as I can. Usually when I'm doing a couch or a chair of mine, I leave the black thing off because things will slip through cushions and it just lets it fall to the ground so that I can easily retrieve them. But because this particular chair sits higher above the ground and is not close to the ground, of course I'm going to need to save this and put it back when we get new fabric back on. Usually on the furniture, you're gonna work on the back first. There's usually a tack strip or something that that just kind of is our next layer that hides everything. What we're gonna need to do first on this particular piece is address this row of piping. It's a little bit of a bulge. It's just an accent to hide seams, just to clean up the finished look, and it gives the chair some character. So we're going to need to first unstaple the piping. It goes all the way around the base of the chair, and it has another layer of staples right here in that cardboard. And that cardboard helps really push in the fabric to make it nice and tight and give that finished look. So that's the next layer. All right, so cardboard is off. You see the piping is still on. Under the layer of cardboard, we have yet another row of delightful staples to get this piping off. So here we go again. All right, so I've got the piping removed. I can take that away, and guess what? Just like an onion, another layer. So we still need to access the back, but we're getting much closer. I just have this row of staples, and then we'll be able to see more of what this chair is made of. So we finally have all the staples out of the last layer of the back, at least the back bottom. Now, at this point, this part is free, but the sides are fastened with some form of tack strip. I was hoping that I would get the easy one with this project, but I don't. So if we can look a little bit closer, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So right here, folded in to the fabric is this metal piece that folds in half. So half of it is tucked in so that when we finish the chair, it's gonna just give this nice finished edge with no staples. Okay, but in order to get this off, we have to peel it back. Okay, I'm going to use my my crowbar for this. This is a perfect opportunity for this little tool because it's going to gently peel back and expose that strip. Now the problem, it's not necessarily a problem, but again, I always try to plan more time for my upholstery projects than I think it'll take because there's always fun surprises like this. Anyway, so I'm gonna fold that back and just bend the metal back, and if you can see, the base of that tack strip is actually stapled in. So once I bend back this layer, then I'm gonna need to go in and remove the staples again. There's these little teeth on the second half of that strip. So as I bent it back, it gives me, and this is actually a really cool way to finish curved edges. What? But as long as it is open, I can release that fabric from the grippers that are in it. Okay, so we're actually a little bit closer to seeing the insides of this baby than I thought. Okay. So now we're open. We've got batting and foam and yes, more staples. So I'm gonna continue working on these staples here, and I'm also going to get the staples out of the foam so that we can continue to see the inside. All right, so we've peeled back a couple of layers here. There's the batting, which is right here, the batting. And then there's this piece of fabric here that covers and is between the batting and the back, or on the other side of you, it's the batting sandwich. All right, so now we can finally kind of see more about into the back of this. This is the back of the cushion. As I push on it, I realize it is stapled underneath these wooden slats. So in order for me to access this, I'm going to need to remove the sides first. This is why, you know, I do the back first, and then it just kind of gives me a direction. I see this, but I know that I can't get to it if I can't get through these sides. So that's gonna be my next step. I've got a layer of staples here that attaches the seat bottom, so I could work on that as well and just open up the back and it's probably going to be where the back and the arms are going to be the last things that I end up pulling out. Now, it's important to realize that as you're going through and taking a chair apart, make mental note, make physical note. Sometimes I like to take pictures of how things were put together so that I don't forget. But basically, as we go and tear off different layers, you've got to keep a mental tally on that so that when we put everything back, you're just going to do it in reverse order. So there we go. All right, so I've gotten this bit of piping unstapled. I've got this next row unstapled and out from the bottom. So again, we've got the layer of fabric, the batting, and then another layer of fabric, and we're getting more into the heart of the chair. Now, there's something that I've discovered. This is a new to me experience. This piping here is the edge that I need to work on next. This is actually pasted on. I've actually never seen anything like this on any of the pieces of furniture that I've worked with, but it's just glue. So I'm just gonna pull it up and it's going to come up. How far does that even go? Okay, it goes all the way around. You see, this is the kind of important stuff to know. Yeah, that goes all the way around to the other side. So I've got that piping up, and I imagine that this double layer of piping is also in the same boat. Am I right? There it is. Yep, so that looks like it's pasted as well. There may be one staple holding it in at the base, but as I get closer to there, I'll be able to see. Now underneath the pasted part is another row of staples, so that's the next bit that I'll work on. And we're getting to the point in the process where I'm starting to separate some of these pieces completely, and I need to label them. So I'm gonna label the piping. I label the pieces, the arm, the side, the inside, the seat, the back. So I'll take a Sharpie marker and I'll just write on the fabric. It's going into the trash anyway. And that will help me remember what goes where, because as these pieces come off, they're not going to be recognizable, and it isn't always so easy. So the piping as well, I want to make sure that I get the right length back in the right spot. So yeah, that's where we're at so far. And there we have it, a naked chair. Now I'm ready to take all of the pieces that I took off, use them as a template to cut new fabric. One of the fun things about demolishing a chair is to find all the fun treasures. So today's treasures include a receipt, a business card, a gum wrapper, a Hall's cough strap, probably still good. And this is the amount of staples that one little chair produced. This is 1 cup measure, so I've got about 3/4 cup of staples. So join me for the next step in cutting and recovering this baby.